Zoom recording. Okay, hey everyone, welcome to our case study number 1 Zoom session. So,
Thank you. Hello.
Hi.
The instructions said that we should go over our answers to all of the questions and have a scholarly discussion on what we determined those answers to the questions might be, or our reflections for those questions were, and that we didn't have to come to consensus, but we just needed to be able to discuss about it.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
the case study 1 is the principal as an instructional leader. And the first question asks, what do you think of the way James handled his particular situation concerning his limited background?
Okay.
It says in there that he was the gym teacher, and he admits that he has little knowledge of the reading curriculum or even how to teach reading. So I have written down that I feel like the way he started off was pretty good, as far as when he held his faculty meeting and he told them that, he'd been friends with them for a long time, but he was going to have to do some correcting of them. And I feel like that started well. Like he tried to be a good leader, like a transformational leader. And I just feel like at some points the words they used in the scenario, like he frankly told the staff of his 2 problems, maybe that meant he was being a little more authoritarian versus, look at all my notes now, versus being that transformational leader or the situational leader or a coach as a leader. I definitely think his biggest issue probably was he did not create a PLC, and then within that PLC, or even him by himself, he didn't try to set up any SMART goals for what he was going to do moving forward to address the reading deficiencies in the school. So I think that was some of the concerns with his limited background.
Okay, I thought that he had a wise strategy. He was up front with the teachers. He admitted his weaknesses and asked for their help, which I think is a smart move. That gives the teachers a sense of empowerment, which in turn, makes them committed to the task at hand and provides motivation for his success. So I think he definitely had a good start. What do you think, Maya?
I definitely agree. I think the biggest piece of information I've learned so far in this class is just how effective it is to create a PLC, and just in order to pinpoint a particular area of need and just address how the team can improve on this need. I think since the principal didn't have the knowledge, he definitely needed a team of support in the school that could have addressed the most pressing need in reading, and what specifically they could target in reading. I think that it was good. He showed that he's a good communicator by, reaching out to the staff and getting their feedback and suggestions. But I think he should have also addressed what his particular expectations were to the staff and what his mission and his goal was, and not just focus on the reading. He did have the support of the reading coach, but I also didn't see where he consulted with the reading district coach to get suggestions on what programs the district may be using. And also the teachers may need some staff development as well. That's what I was saying. Oh, and another thing, I noted that, it looks like he has a strength with his discipline. And I
Yes.
just noted that he could have used that area to train his
Mhm.
staff, because it looked like in the beginning, it said that the staff was very, teachers were demoralized and tired. So I think that is a big area of need that should be addressed as well. And it looked like, he has a strength in that area.
Absolutely.
I feel that if he would have gotten even some norms and values started with that first faculty meeting, instead of jumping right in with
Mhm.
his two problems and stuff, if he would have set up a way that he could have been a little more approachable or not alienated like maybe the other subjects. I feel like the teachers, since they were already beat down, if their subject wasn't reading, they might not have felt like he cared about them or was looking for them to be important in the future, or they didn't have value at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
I did address that in the other questions,
me too.
but, and I felt like it didn't say he had a lot of experience in administration. It said he was an administrative assistant in order to get his license. So he really didn't know what he was doing. He probably didn't know what a PLC was.
Exactly.
So, I think maybe he could have asked for a little more guidance in how to do some of the things. But the teachers, I thought, did a good job at giving him advice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I realize, you can't do it all by yourself. You do need your leaders, your teacher leaders, to help and guide you as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that brings us to question 2 about what more could he have done to help the reading scores in the school. Creating that PLC would have brought more people to the table that could have been able to identify that most pressing need in that reading department, and it might have helped him realize who the strong teachers of the reading were. It didn't talk much about data that they looked like at all in here, as far as other than the scores are low in reading and they need to fix that. Like, where is evidence that he even knows what part of the reading program is low? Is it teachers? Is it prior knowledge? Is it the remediation classes or the overall school? And then when it said that about the behavior in the beginning, it kind of made me think, if the behavior is bad, is it because all the students are low in reading? And then that would translate to all your other subjects. It's not just ELA as its own basket, and it doesn't spread out into math or science or social studies. If they're low reading, they're going to be low in all those other subjects too. So you kind of have to
That's true.
get that PLC there and then do some sort of data dive so that that reading is that first focus that you need to fix, because when you fix the reading issues, then again, it spreads back to math, ELA, and social studies, or math, science, and social studies. So then those scores would start to improve. And I didn't see much of that. I feel like he could have been more of a coach as a leader since he seemed to have already known the faculty, could have picked out who were the strong teachers, and that data would have showed or given him a point to stand on as, this is why I picked this person to lead, to help maybe weaker teachers in the reading content.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. And I was looking at the chapter that we had to read this week in the Uber book.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that he could have relied on the teachers as what they describe as adult learners, when the teachers are given the opportunities to plan and design their own learning and development opportunities. There's relevance to the learning experience, and learning is problem-centered rather than content-centered, and use their past experience to incorporate in the learning setting. And so I thought he could have relied on the teachers more in that area and less on the reading coach, because I felt like he totally let her do all of the leading.
Mm-hmm.
and
I
just followed
definitely
everything she said blindly, and used to say that she was the best person. I mean, I realize she's the reading coach, but he missed the opportunity to get help from other teachers. And I put that I thought that he should involve all content areas, because every teacher should be a reading teacher regardless of what content they're teaching. And I also wanted him to see him involve parents more, because if parents are promoting the value of reading at home, then that's going to carry over to their students. He could have also gotten parent volunteers in the school to help with reading. There are a lot of things that he really could have done.
I definitely agree. And with you, Faye, and I like how you referenced Uber, because what I stated was just how important it is to, I like the fact that he did take ownership by, going to staff development and getting the knowledge, and becoming an active researcher, because that's very important. But what he didn't do was get that information out to his staff. And I think that's very important. And then, like you said, he kind of relied on the reading coach, and she kind of just did everything. But it's important to build on everyone's knowledge and abilities when forming, these groups and getting the job done. And one thing that I learned with the PLC is creating that needs assessment, just to see where, in particular, what area of reading, they want to target. And then also the research-based materials would have been good to use as well.
Oh, absolutely.
I did point out that it looked like the reading coach was leading all of the professional development for the staff. And had you acknowledged which teacher was a strong teacher, you could have given that teacher some leadership roles and let them lead a professional development at the part that was their strong suit or where their class was having success. And then that would create a more uniformed reading program across the school instead of it being each teacher doing their own. It says when he met with them, that sometimes it was in small groups to discuss either their gains or lack of gains or lack of progress it caused. And I feel like if he would have, when he noticed that a teacher was having that success and that progress, if he would have had that teacher then do a little professional development on that part of what was making her get the gains or him get the gains, that would have made other teachers more, they would have bought in, they'd have been willing to try that way versus just having a book tell you, hey, this way is going to work, so do it. If it's one of your own standing up there saying, I do this and it does work, it seems to build more of that buy-in for the teachers of, wow, okay, I need to try that. This is my colleague, this is my friend, they're doing it and it works, they said it works, I believe them.
That's true. And, Dr. Hamilton one night was telling us that she always tries to focus on the positive things that teachers are doing, because if you focus on that, they'll start doing more of that.
Right.
And I really like that approach. I think too often we are very quick to put the blame on the teachers and criticize what they're doing wrong instead of encouraging what they're doing right.
I agree with that.
I agree. I find it's also helpful sometimes. I've seen where teachers videotape their lessons and then share that with other staff members and show them, what they did that was effective. Sometimes it's really good to actually see it on a video. And I've seen that to be effective. And just the team building each other up as a team is very helpful. and making sure everyone understands, you know, what the mission and the goal is, and, you know, how everybody can work together to achieve it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they
an
needed a
additional
smart goal
resource.
there.
Yeah. One of the additional resources I meant to throw in is I noticed he didn't say anything about the media specialist.
Mm-hmm.
And
True.
you would think that that would be one of his experts.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, going to the media center and choosing books that they want to read,
Mm-hmm.
that they will encourage them to enjoy reading.
Yeah.
Or even acknowledging the difference between a media specialist and a librarian. I know my school currently has a librarian. She
Oh,
is not a
really?
media. She is not a media specialist. Her words. In some
Wow.
of the books, when I go in there, even as a math teacher, to try to pull something to do, like a class read aloud or at the beginning to get them hooked, there aren't, all the books are old. There's like, we only have like 2 digital reader type ebook things. It's very outdated. And I don't know if that's a reflection of my school in the district or a reflection of the librarian wanting to stay as a librarian and not moving into a media specialist type of role.
Wow.
So
Interesting.
you got to have people that are willing to change, to at least try new things. You know, they may not like it, it may not be comfortable, but to try those new things. And you're right, with that media specialist could have been a great asset for him to work with the reading, even making sure they have books that those kids like you said.
Yeah. And as a leader, teacher leader, you want, and an administrator, you want your students to feel like when they come to the library, that is the place that, you know, we want to come.
That's
You know,
right.
that's a, yeah.
Great point there, Faye. What additional resources could he have used? I think we started this question already. That media center would have been a great additional resource, as well as you were stating a minute ago, Maya, that he should have used some of the technology that I know we have nowadays as far as videotaping lessons and giving feedback on that. Because it said something in there about he went in every week to observe and he wanted to try to catch them when they were doing reading time. I feel like as that school leader, he should have been better equipped to know when the reading time would have happened in the classes. Whether that would have been an email or a Google form sent out to say, hey, what time are you doing reading? What time can I come observe? It probably would have had the teachers be able to give more feedback or provide more evidence for him when he was in there observing. Trying to see where I saw it. With James's help, yes, they visited the class every day, and he tried. And I wrote down there, if he had created the action plan to 1, have observations, and then 2, the PD not only for himself but for his staff, and then to train teacher leaders to do PDs.
I agree. Just helping, just using teachers as resources, you know, is very
That's
important.
right.
You know, and it seemed like him and the reading specialist, they kind of did everything themselves, but, you know, you've got to use your teachers to help you and build, you know, help you as a resource. And, you know, they can build on each other because they're the ones in the classroom and they do have the expertise to know, you know, what the areas of need are.
That's right. And they, you want that buy-in from your teachers, teamwork, and for everybody to have a common goal. And when you start leaving them out of the loop, then things aren't going to improve.
Right.
Well, I think that's kind of our overall point there, is if he would have had that PLC, then he would have had a good idea of teachers that might have been, or even if it started as a big PLC, every ELA teacher, and then he narrowed it down to a select PLC, they could have done that data dive that we were
That's
mentioning
right.
earlier, which would have led them to that most pressing need. They would have then had a SMART goal that they could have set up so that it would have been obtainable and they would have known how to measure it, versus it feels like him and the reading coach were the only two trying to
That's
solve
right.
this school-wide issue. And then you force things down on your teachers, and it's you telling them what to do versus them having that part of being the solution. They
That's
became the
right.
problem instead of them being part of that solution. And
That's
I
right.
think that is some of the additional things he could have done. And we said, all three of us have said, it started with him he should have created the PLC.
Exactly.
Absolutely, Crystal.
That would have led him to a good action plan,
Yes, it would have.
because then he would have known where to start with that pressing need. He could have
That's right.
then aligned teachers that could have worked together, been mentors to other teachers. Yeah,
He
we know what he should have
in the
done.
class we're taking.
Yes,
He
definitely.
needed it.
Yes.
So
Been
the
very,
last, oh, go ahead.
no, I was saying this has been very helpful to me, with just understanding the basis of just, the importance of the PLC.
It has.
Mm-hmm.
Having a PLC that you want to be on is very important versus having a PLC you're forced to be on.
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
I'm in that group now where my principal has forced the entire math department, and now a lot of them are giving me backlash.
Yes.
And we lost a math teacher a couple weeks ago for some unknown reason.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So if you even, like I said, if you could have started with the whole ELA department or the whole reading department and then wiggled it down and figured out who was really going to try to be vested in that and would be leaders on that PLC, then you could have had a much more
Effective
developed,
program.
effective, PLC, and gotten some good results.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the last question says, what could he be sacrificing, if anything, by placing an extraordinary emphasis on the reading program? Well, gosh, we've stated a lot already. Other teachers' feelings, like what, math isn't important? We don't need science.
That's right.
And I think when you don't make the connection that every teacher is a teacher of literacy, then you're alienating those other subjects. It's going to be hard for you to get the buy-in, because his last paragraph is the next couple of years he's going to include these other subjects. Well, you didn't include me in the get-go, so why am I important now? So you don't get that efficacy, and I probably said that wrong, that desired response, the desired outcome from fixing that reading program, if not all your teachers have a belief in it. And it does make other subjects feel less important. And you can't do that in a school, because then students start to see, well, math doesn't mean as much as reading. That's the only thing we're focusing on now is reading.
I agree with you, Crystal. But not only that, you could be sacrificing some test scores in subjects if you're only focusing on reading.
I definitely agree. I think we have to build the whole child and not just focus on one subject, because you will see other subjects you pushed aside and those go down in numbers. But, we do have to focus on building the whole child and having balance. And I think that's very important, because sometimes as teachers too, you feel like, oh, my principal really wants me to focus on this one subject area. And then you kind of push the other ones, you don't hold the other subject areas, to a high standard, just like the one that you're focusing on. So I just think that that's important, to just hold everything to a high standard, but just know that there are some needs that we really need to target.
Absolutely, because if you can't read, you can't do anything. There are some students that are gifted in math, and they need to be nurturing that. And so we can't just, put it to the side. We need to, I think the tutoring thing, having outside people come in and read with kids who are weak in reading, so that they're getting the extra time, but you can't leave the other subjects out.
You're an elementary teacher, is that right?
Yes, special education.
So I know I could definitely see when you brought that up a minute ago about your principal pushes, we got to focus on reading. So then you give less time to your science and math and social studies. As a middle school teacher, we just feel like our whole subject doesn't mean anything, or our test isn't as important. So we got good math test scores this year, but reading's on the decline. So we've got to focus on ELA. Every initiative you seem to do then seems to be ELA geared. And it does make all those other subjects feel left out. I couldn't imagine being in the ELA or being in the elementary realm and knowing I had to cut my 30 minutes of science out, because we're all literacy teachers. We know that if you can't read, you can't do any of the other subjects. So it starts there. Like, we know that.
Yeah.
But the kids have to see that whole school picture, not just
That's true.
language class.
They do.
And I'm a high school English teacher, but
I got a good mix here.
with that wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I just thought it was interesting too in this case study, just how all of a sudden, they started focusing on reading, but what about the discipline? They stopped talking about that. And I thought that was very interesting, because that was a huge problem in the beginning. And then when he became the principal, he realized that he was told, reading was the focus, but the discipline seemed like a huge area. I mean, not only with the students, but the parents and teachers. There's a huge area of need there,
Yeah. I wondered what happened to that too, because, at my school, discipline is the issue. And in my junior class, I spend half of the class on discipline. And so, there's a lot of wasted time there. How can you, sometimes I feel like I need for my administrators to be the disciplinarian so that I can be the good guy and do the teaching. I don't want them I want them to be afraid to have to leave my room.
Right.
And go get
I'm the safe
by the
place.
principal. Yeah.
Well, I mentioned that in that question number 1 about his situation. If the kids are all out of control and not behaving, is that a reflection of their reading scores being low? Because, when students can't do the work at hand, they will do anything to avoid it. And a lot of times that avoidance comes as bad behaviors, disrespect, or acting out in the classroom. So if he was such a good disciplinarian in the beginning, and one of you said it, why didn't he focus on that to make the teachers in the school, once he was the administrator, a little bit of a different environment?
That's true.
Yeah, he could have focused on that a little bit more.
And I just wanted to make 2 points at the end. Just the first point, I noticed one of the videos that Dr. Lamb did earlier, and he stated how a lot of these districts, take the time to buy a lot of these programs, and they've already been research-based, but sometimes, and they're in your building, and sometimes they sit on a shelf, they collect dust, and, they're not being used, or they're being used, but they're not being used with fidelity. Right. So I just thought that was kind of a factor that could be looked at too with this case study.
You're exactly right, because it goes on to say that she tells him to meet with the vendors at the conferences, and just having those materials in the building doesn't mean your students are going to learn.
Right.
No, because some of us don't have enough technology to use it on a regular basis.
That's true.
Did you have a second one?
Yes. The author of a book that researched. I just wanted to add that piece, and he states that a culture of collaboration suggests that collaboration is not just a surface effort, but should foster a deep dialogue in which professionals practice inquiry and transformation to improve the functionality of the school. And I think this is an important area, to address when utilizing your leaders at your school and how just effective it is.
That's right.
Last piece.
He defined his teacher leaders and put them on that PLC.
Absolutely, Maya. That's a good point, too.
Good points.
Thank you.
All right, ladies.
All right.
Anybody got anything else?
No, I don't.
I don't either. I think we covered it well.
I think so.
We could all go in there to Webster Middle School and be great assistant principals.
Yes, we could.
Agree.
Okay, well, I'll stop recording now, and then if y'all will hang on
Okay.
just another second, we'll talk about how we get this to each other.